So welcome to part 3, and I look at the back bed. Now the first thing to really note about this bed is that it's underneath my neighbour's trees, and the second thing to note is that there's a fence there, there's a wall there, there's my shed wall here, so it really doesn't get hardly any sunlight. Only really sort of half an hour of glimmering from there at about midday in the summer, and from there in the summer only at about 7 in the evening. Otherwise totally shady, totally covered in dead leaves falling down off the trees. So if we flash back to this time last year, or a bit later than this time last year, June, you can see that it's not even really what you call overgrown in a traditional sense, because at the back you've got a load of ivy and some of these weird rush things, don't really know what they are, and you've got one kind of bog standard fern, and otherwise most of the growth you see is attempted saplings of trees from the species plural overhead. So they all had to come out, and then I went down the garden centre, and the first thing I bought was this chap. Now, I mentioned in a previous video about paralysis of choice, and one of the nice things about having a very shady bed is that you go into the shade house at the garden centre and there's an incredibly small choice compared to all the plants they have that want full sun. So it didn't take me very long to spot this, and I was pretty blown away, because somebody who's not previously paid any attention to gardening, never seen anything quite like this in terms of flowers. And it's not just the flowers which are pretty spectacular, the leaves are as well, or should be. As you can see, mine is currently a right old mess, because this was the first plant I put in, and then I've been digging and tramping up and down the bed, weeding and planting and watering, and I think I just ruined it basically. But if we flash back to last year, I'll show you some pictures of what the leaves should be like. They're very sort of palmate, which gives them a really nice tropical look, but the colour and the texture is just unreal in the flesh. I don't think my photos quite did it justice. So yeah, I was super impressed with that, and because it's a plant that naturally grows in a woodland bed, it's happy with the shade, it's happy with leaves falling on it, allegedly, although mine doesn't seem to be. So I thought, yeah, this is awesome, I'm going to hop right on the Tiarella train. So I did get some more, but we'll come to them in due course. The next thing, well actually the same day, that I planted was a Acanthus mollis, which was in the middle here. It didn't seem to be working out there at all, so I put it in the side bed, and it got even worse, and I gave up on it altogether and just put it in a plant pot ready to throw away or give away or something, and it started recovering. So I put it in here, I put it up at the back, and now it's kind of getting a bit better. It's a bit hidden by these rush things at the moment. It's not very tall, it's meant to be 1.5 meters or so. Probably one of the tallest plants I've bought. Not yet, but it is now at least established and looking a bit healthy. Now the Tiarella pink skyrocket here quite obviously sets a pink and white colour scheme, and honestly more out of coincidence than anything else. I think the Acanthus also is whitey, pinky colours of flower, although it hasn't flowered yet, so I'm not sure, can't remember. But the Tiarella alone was enough to establish the colour scheme pretty firmly, so I rapidly set about adding more plants. The third, I went for another tiarella, this time a tiger stripe, which as you can see at the moment is very second rate looking. I'll flash back to how it was, how it should be. I'm not quite sure why my plants have all collapsed in this way. It wasn't any real frost over winter to speak of, but who knows. Hopefully they'll come back strongly. The tiger stripe, I have to say, with hindsight, is slightly disappointing. I think there are a lot more interesting varieties of tiarella and eucarella that I could have chosen, but I didn't, never mind. And the fourth plant was a dicentra, pink dicentra formosa, which I put up behind the tiarella. Now at the time of filming there's not much to be seen of it. It is this little chap, and there's another one. I don't think it's this, I think that's Herb Robert. I think it's this down here, so hopefully they'll come back as they were last year. Flashback, being kind of much taller than the tiarellas and having a sort of layer stepping up behind them. And then I later added to these pink dicentras with this rather glorious white dicentra, Aurora, which is honestly much more satisfying purchase with hindsight than the pink ones, because it's much more lengthy, not just in its flowering but even in its sort of visibility at all, just with the leaves. If the pink ones were equivalent that would be much better, but never mind. Next, I decided I needed to sort out some cover for the fence at the back here, so I bought this little shrub chap, which is a sweet box winter gem. It's unfortunately quite slow growing, so it's grown literally about 3mm in the last year, but it should hopefully be about a metre tall, about a metre wide, so cover most of that panel of the fence. It's supposed to smell very nice in winter and have berries to help feed birds and stuff like that. Sixth plant, yet another tiarella, except not exactly, because this one is actually a eucarella, cross between a tiarella and a euchera. And this one is called Alabama Sunrise, so it's got an amazing spectrum of colours, from yellows through to oranges, through to lime greens, through to very green greens, through to very deep greened veins, depending on the season. I don't really have enough photos to do it justice, and it's also, again, in a bit of a crappy looking state at the moment. Never mind. Then went to a local open gardens event and picked up this epimedium as a, well, not exactly a freebie. I paid the bloke £3 or something and it goes to charity. So that unfortunately has yellow flowers, 2 or 3 weeks ago, but they've already gone. So that doesn't fit my colour scheme at all, but I'm not going to lose too much sleep about it. And you can see that that's their little rockery. So all of these big chunks of rock were just in the flower bed. I guess builders cheaping out, not wanting to create an entire bed filled with quality soil, so they chucked some rubble in So when I planted stuff, I had to dig them out and I piled them up there to try and create habitat for spiders and stuff. And actually, if you zoom in closely enough and then sort my focus out, you can see there are loads of spider webs. So I guess it's working. And up behind it, likewise, wildlife habitat attempt, deadwood pile. Hasn't really paid off massively. Haven't seen anything really interesting like hedgehogs or whatever, but early days. Unfortunately, I don't think there's any route really in and out of the garden for something like a hedgehog to find themselves there, but I may be wrong. And here you see my highly attractive bag of compost, because I haven't bought a composting bin or anything as highfalutin as that. And then during the summer proceeded to fill in the bed with more plants. So this guy, a bit raggedy in the middle but new leaves coming out now. We'll flash back and see what it should look like. That's a Persicaria Darjeeling red. So that was again pink and white. Sort of apes the structure of the Tiarella flowers in a much more low res kind of way. And I got that because it flowers a bit later than the Tiarella. It's more summer, late summer, so it kept the colour scheme persisting a bit longer throughout the year. And then next up we've got this fuchsia. So at the moment not flowering yet, although I've seen fuchsias just down the road which are different cultivars. This one's white and red flowers to fit my colour scheme of white and red and all the pinks in between. So again, I'll flash back and show you some nice photos of the fuchsia catching some nice little dapples of sun and what have you. So then there was only one major gap left within those rows of plants, as it were, which I filled in August, I think it was, with this geranium macrorhizum. Again, pink flowers, I believe. It's looking a bit small there. It was much bigger last year, so hopefully that's got some good growth yet to come this season. Up at the back here, you can barely really make it out, but this is a Japanese quince. So I just took this twig, as it were, off my parents' cutting, stuck it in, and it's taken a year just to kind of establish itself. So no real bushy growth to speak of yet, but that's hopefully again going to cover a lot of the fence. And then next to it, this chap is a toad lily. So I saw these in Bristol Botanical Garden. They were next to the lake. They apparently do like it quite moist, so I hope that's not too dry for it under the tree there. And I'm also a bit sad that it's much more purple than I thought it was in the garden centre. I thought it was safely pink, but it's straying into purple. But I'll cope with that. Now the fern, you might remember, was originally in the middle. I thought that was occupying a bit too much of a prime spot, so I moved it. I wasn't sure if it would survive a move. Sure enough, the fronds just sort of fell over and collapsed, and I thought I'd killed it, but no, actually, if I zoom right in on it, you can see that there's a fresh frond just waiting to unfurl. And the most recent thing that I planted is a load of snowdrops. All the way along the front for the most part. Yeah. The reason being fairly simple, which is if you're going for a sort of forest floor vibe, white is in your colour palette, and you live in the UK, then what more could possibly fit that bill than snowdrops? So at the end of last year I bought 90 bulbs, chucked them all in, mostly along the front, some scattered throughout, but really only the front ones have done their job. Before produced kind of drift. I didn't get any flowers unfortunately this year to speak of. I think there was literally one plant that produced a couple of very weak flowers that lasted about a day. I gather in the first year of planting bulbs it's quite normal that they won't flower. So in terms of future plantings for this bed, there's not a lot of room left. I got quite carried away last year in a lot of ways. So if everything like the dicentra establishes itself nicely, I might just take more divisions of that to get a nice sort of thick carpet that mixes up the white and the pink ones. Otherwise, yeah, pretty much just waiting for things to bulk out, and they should hopefully all start blending and joining together.